Hello and welcome everyone to Sales Intel's webinar, Visitor Intel, the secret to ABM success. My name is Ariana Shannon and I am the marketing director here at Sales Intel. Have been here for quite a while, and as Raj said earlier, I'm really excited to talk about this because we drink our own champagne. This is something that we use at our own company to drive a lot of revenue. So I'm excited to jump into it, but I have with me Raj Kera, our head of growth. Welcome, Raj. Give you a second to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Ariana. Looking forward to sharing some pretty cool insights today. I think our audience is going to find very interesting. So really good way to drive revenue.
Absolutely. So let's dive in. So today, a quick agenda for us. We're going to go over what is needed for a successful ABM strategy, how you can uncover intent signals, and a quick line about what those are and how you find them, and then how to actually implement Visitor Intel in your process in the use cases that we have. And of course, we'll have a live Q&A at the end of the session. So if you have questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat, pop them in the QA. If it's really impactful in the moment and we see it, we'll address it then. If not, we will answer those at the end of the session. So let's go ahead and jump. A targeted ABM approach. Remember, Raj, we were talking about this yesterday. We had a really long conversation of what actually is impactful, and it all really comes back to quality and data and information. This is very key in all facets of your ABM campaign. You need to have knowledge, and it is really across the entire element. So, of course, since we're a data provider and we talk about this all the time with our audiences of who are you targeting? Do you actually know who you need to find in the space and who you should be sending your message to?
That's right. And so, when we think of account-based marketing, I know a lot of people on the webinar today might be in sales, and some might be in marketing also. So account-based marketing really meshes the two together. It's like creating a customized marketing plan to go after a specific account. And so part of the components of something like this would involve understanding the organization you're going after, creating an org chart of the places that you could start penetrating, maybe somebody in their sales department, their IT department, whichever one fits your ICP, your ideal client profile that you want to go after, and then coordinating with your sales team as well as your marketing team so that you're providing air cover, you're providing perhaps direct mail pieces. One of the techniques that some of my prior companies have used in the past very successfully is to literally send a box of cookies. And every time I talk to the IT department about that, they're thinking the technology cookies that go on your browser, but it's not that. I'm talking chocolate chips going to your potential client.
Yes.
And we used to send that along with a simple message that said something like, "You are great at driving revenue. We can help make you unstoppable. Enjoy the cookies. We'll be in touch." Something really short, simple, and sweet. And we actually found that little things like that got responses like, "Hey, thanks for the cookies. I'm not the right person, but let me connect you with the one who is." Works all the time. So that associated with other avenues, outreach phone calls, direct mail pieces, guides, training data reports, things like that. All that stuff really makes a big difference. And of course, as Ariana pointed out, it starts with who are you going to reach? That is the biggest thing. That's where we're going to show you some techniques on figuring out how you should reach, who you should reach, and then help you penetrate that.
Exactly, because I'm definitely a believer in the direct mail marketing campaign. It's so impactful now, especially since we're in a digital space. But again, it all comes back to data. Like, where did you find that? How did you know to contact them, or how did you figure out where they're located? So, and that's where we'll hit this for a second, but it really is all about a tighter focus and precision in what you're doing. And that's really where hitting the right people at the right time with the right message, pulling all of these data signals together so that you can leverage this intent to have a successful campaign, of really finding the decision makers when they're interested and being mindful of your communication with them. And I'll preface this a little bit because some people may not be fully versed in intent data. That really is just a signal showing intent. Traditionally, you would see this if they filled out a form on your website. That's the original way of doing it, of, hey, they asked for pricing, let me give them pricing. But 90% of the traffic coming to your website is never going to fill out a form. 90% of your audience coming to your site is never going to get there. So then how do you actually, as a marketer, I want to know how to get in front of those people. That's really easy to do. And that's where, again, Visitor Intel really comes in and helps with that problem specifically. So
That's
Raj, is
correct.
there
Yeah.
anything you want to add here?
Well, so I mean, thinking about this in a broader perspective, you've got your total addressable market of who you think you should be reaching, who your product or service fits. So that's a very, usually a much larger market. And certainly you want to have outreach campaigns going out to those folks. But as you start thinking about the biggest potential accounts, that's where you can really focus on these fine-tuned micro full-blown marketing plans that are designed for one specific company. Let's just say you want to go after Oracle, big company. How are you going to penetrate Oracle? They have so many decision makers. So what you want to know is, well, if I'm going after Oracle, I want to reach somebody who's a director level, VP level, somebody who can make decisions. And if you're targeting products that are in the IT department, you want to focus on those. So the really cool thing about what we're about to show you here with Visitor Intel is we can tell you if some of the other marketing that you did drove traffic to your site and someone didn't actually fill it out. So Ariana, I'm going to let you take it from here so that we can see exactly how you reach these people.
Exactly. And thank you, Raj, for setting me up for that one. I will put this with the caveat of we're very much talking strategy, talking very highly of what are all the components and how you bring it together. So with Visitor Intel, it really is about unmasking those that 90% of the people coming to the website to leverage them in campaigns and initiatives. Because if they're coming to your website, more often than not, there's a need there. Of course, everyone coming maybe is looking for something else, and you can very quickly weed those people out. But it's really impactful for showing a specific domain or account or company that has been coming to your website with these elements. So with that, I'm going to dive into my absolute favorite use case, which is using Visitor Intel to fuel your retargeting campaigns. You could use this whether it's in a specific email marketing workflow, or if you're trying to leverage a paid channel. Within paid channels, you have the ability to say, hey, anyone that is visiting this domain, I want to retarget to them. And that's fantastic, but that is very broad. Visitor Intel makes this much narrower. So with taking the Visitor Intel code, essentially, putting it onto specific pages of the website, I get information of accounts that are going to those pages. Then through our own data service and what we have available to us as a company and what we offer to our clients, I can take those account names and break it down to my buyer persona to get specific decision makers that I can use in email campaigns. We can take those specific accounts that we've also matched with our ICP rating. So I can take the account information, go through with my firmographic data, my technographic data, and create a very specific audience. And because of that, 90% of our paid leads fall within our ICP. That is fantastic on our spend.
Yeah,
I
mean, like this is one of the ways we really reduce our cost per lead and our cost per acquisition of a client. So to kind of like frame it in another way, when we're spending money on our online advertising, we're thinking of the keywords that we want to pursue and trying to match that up with thoughts that our ICP would want. So the very common way that a lot of people do it. So then we'll drive traffic to the site, and if they get to our landing page, they don't fill the form out, which Ariana pointed out, a lot of people come to the site, they just don't fill it out. We still want to know who could potentially be looking at us, because it shows intent. It shows that they're looking for a product or service like what we sell. Same thing for you. When you're selling your product or service and you're spending money on ads, there's going to be intent there if they're coming to your website. They just want to learn more. So now what happens? Sometimes it takes many touches before people are interested in you. In fact, there's an old marketing axiom that said it takes 7 touches before someone even remembers your name. And so this could be, they saw a Twitter post, they saw something on LinkedIn, maybe they saw an ad, and they just start to, oh, I remember that company. I think I've heard of them before. They're not ready yet to fill out your form. So what you want to do, Kim just did, ICP stands for ideal client profile. So like a buyer persona. So the leads that you get we can't tell you exactly who's coming to the site because there's all sorts of privacy laws. But what we can tell you is the accounts that are coming. So if a specific company is coming, so that's really cool, and we can tie that back into the data that Sales Intel provides with the decision makers in such a company, so you can then do outreach to them.
No, absolutely. And because that's what ABM is in its truest sense, is being very targeted and being very specific so you can move things more quickly. So again, my favorite use case, but not the only one. The next one is about identifying content that is driving website engagement. So with Visitor Intel, there is a way to put this tracking element very widely on your site, and then holistically, we also give you the information of sessions. So how much time is someone actually spending on your website as a whole? So it's just another indicator if you want to track very broadly, or if you want to track specifically of what are people actually taking the time to read? Where are they spending their focus? And can help you get insight into what maybe is or is not connecting. If there's something about the site that you can kind of verify with Visitor Intel, and then of course, like check in Google Analytics and definitely check in other places to see what are the bounce rates, what's going on. This is, again, just another data signal indicator to help fill this idea and this part of the puzzle to get a better understanding of how people are interacting with your content.
Yeah, exactly. I think you nailed that one pretty good. I don't have much to add there. So,
okay, sorry,
yeah.
I've been thinking about this for the last like 2 or 3 days. It's been Visitor Intel like for the entire week.
Yeah.
But, also, the other one, which is really fantastic, is identifying the high intent companies and accounts. Now, I talked about this from a paid channel and a retargeting perspective that's very marketing focused. And because I'm a marketer, that's where I spend a lot of my time, is in the top of the funnel. However, if someone is visiting the website, is in our ICP, and has a lot of sessions, so they're spending a lot of time, I need to get that to my sales team immediately. There is high intent there. It's an additional signal that I can do for them. And we also have this from one of our existing customers of just being able to generate better pipeline, because you have an idea of, again, your total addressable market, what your ideal customer profile is, or all these signals that you know of, okay, this is who I should be targeting, but maybe there's someone else that's visiting your site that you didn't consider. Or you're being able to take these additional elements and really focus in and say, hey, these people are actually coming. Why is that? So is there something you didn't see before? Is there something that is ready to close immediately and maybe they've just been dark? And again, it's great to be able to reach out to them. And I'll add this as a bonus kind of pro tip. If you're finding this information through a web identifier tool, in your message to them, make sure it's very relevant. I've seen a couple of emails, or actually I've received these emails of, hey, we saw you were looking at this content, or we saw that you were this. So Raj, I love how you put this the other day, which is, don't be spooky.
Don't be spooky. So here's a couple of examples here. You're probably spending money developing content. And so when you get people to that content, again, they might not fill out the lead generation form that you have on that content, but they're looking at it. So what Visitor Intel does, and Ariana will show a couple of screenshots here shortly, is that it actually tells you how many sessions people are having from different companies on your website. This is really important, because if you've got a company that you're sort of targeting, they've not reached out to you, they've not engaged, or so you think, when you look at the Visitor Intel information, you can actually see that there are 10 different sessions from this one company on your website. Now that shows high intent. That shows that they've got a problem that they're trying to figure out a solution to. They're engaging with your content. They're not reaching out to you yet, but they're engaging with your content. So what Visitor Intel does is allow you to flip the table and say, oh, I see you're visiting our website. Well, let me reach out to you. And it's really important when you reach out to people, don't say, I saw you were visiting my website, I'm reaching out to you. That will spook them. Okay. So we can all imagine being on the receiving end of such an email. It's a little spooky, right? But what you can do is say, hey, we're finding companies like yours that are really interested in our solution to do XYZ. And that is a much warmer approach. you know that they're interested based on the data, but you don't say that you know that they're interested. So it just gives it a nice warmer touch. But this high intent concept is what Visitor Intel does. The way I do it for our teams here at Sales Intel and all my prior teams, there's two types of content. There's high intent content, which suggests that someone is ready to buy. And then there's everything else. That everything else builds the top of the funnel. When you've got them to your website looking at high intent content could be case studies. It could be pricing information. It could be something that compares you to another service. Those are buying type of content. When someone's looking at that, you want to reach out to them like that, because they're going to be making a decision maybe in the very near future. You want to be part of that conversation. So that's what this tool helps you do.
No, absolutely. You definitely hit the nail on the head there. And sorry, I was trying to check something on my side. I was checking my screen and I'm trying to find my way back.
Okay.
So let me bounce out of this right quick. Thank you everyone for your patience. Progress over perfection is one of our cultural pillars here.
No worries. So yeah, just knowing where to put your focus is important, rather than just reaching out to everybody because you want to target everybody. Knowing when there's intent, really, really key. All right.
Absolutely. Having some troubles.
Well, while you're getting that loaded, there's a question here. How do you know if a specific individual landed on a page if they've never filled out a form or made themselves known? So that's a good question. What Visitor Intel does, and what's really allowed by laws like the CCPA and other state laws that are now coming to the, you can't, if someone has not identified themselves to you, you don't know exactly who that individual is, but you can tell through Visitor Intel which company is engaging. So what we do is allow you to then see how many records we have of contacts, human verified contacts inside that company. And then you can sort by decision makers. So let's say, we just use Oracle as an example. Maybe that's too big, let's pick a mid-sized company that nobody's heard of. XYZ company came to your website. They're 500 employee company, and they've got people who are directors, VPs, and so on. And you've noticed that there's like 5 different user sessions in the last week of people visiting your site from that organization, which is what Visitor Intel will tell you. Right on your screen, you'll also see something that shows the number of human verified contacts we have for that company. And then you can filter to say, okay, out of the 200 contacts we might have, you might actually want to focus only on the VPs, the directors in a specific department, marketing, sales, or IT, or whatever the department, finance, whatever the department is. So you can narrow that down a lot further and come up with the 12 people, the 10 people, the 5 people that you should be reaching out to. So that's how you would use Visitor Intel to identify the group of people that could potentially be those buyers. Again, because of privacy things, you can't actually know out of the ether who is actually looking at your specific page, right off the bat. So what we do is provide the intelligence so you can backtrack your way into it.
Absolutely. It's a very great point, Raj. And also, if you could see all of the potentially 6,000 people or however many people are coming to your website, that's a lot to filter through. It's a lot of information. So not only is it because of privacy, but then also if you can just focus on the account and work your way back, it just makes it a lot easier. And
yeah,
we made it.
Yeah. Thanks for that question. Let me know if you want some additional clarification or anything, but I hope that it addressed your question. Thank you.
No, it was a really great question. And then one of the last premium use cases that we have is around just using Visitor Intel for the ABM engagement. So again, it's taking all of these use cases that we've created and really leveraging them across the entire organization. So do you have existing clients coming to your website, or do you have the information? Are you leveraging that in your marketing campaigns and your sales campaigns?
Yeah. So again, goes to the point of knowing who you want to reach and including that as part of your ABM campaign. By the way, ABM campaigns generate a ton of money for businesses. It's a lot of work. It's not batch and blast, spray and pray. It's very focused, targeted messaging. So if you're trying to reach the the CMO at a mid-market company, you want to know who influences their decisions. So you want to look at their teams and then determine which people are engaging with your content. And as you start to notice that there are more people coming back and looking at your site, you then start outreach efforts to different people in those organizations. And sometimes it's block and tackle. It's sending a management type of report to the leader. It's sending a use case to a manager. It's sending the integration guide to the IT person. So it's a multifaceted approach. You're not going to send the same thing to everybody. You're going to make it very personalized. And that's what this allows you to do.
No, absolutely. Of bringing it all together. And with this, because we've been talking about it, also wanted to include just a very high level screenshot of what does this actually look like as far as what you can see. So
let's walk through this, because this is really, really cool. I know it's a bunch of numbers on a screen, but let me show you what, and I'm a big fan of numbers, but let's figure out how to use these. So Ariana, why don't you walk us through everything we're seeing here, because this will show our audience how they can leverage the information.
Absolutely. So starting over here at our top, this number is essentially how many companies were actually visiting your website during a specific time frame. So right now, this screenshot was set to yesterday. So you're looking at a very specific time. You can also change that to week, last week, this week, a month, the quarter. You have flexibility into how much time frame you're seeing. So 252 companies visited this particular website on or yesterday, technically, as according to the screenshot.
Our yesterday was November 18th, 2020.
Yep.
But for the screenshot, yes.
For the screenshot. Yeah. From those 252 companies, total, there were 308 users. So 308 individual people that came to the site, or actually individual IPs, I'll say is more appropriate there. From those 308 people, you had 376 sessions. Now, I mentioned sessions earlier. What that means is that one session equals 15 minutes. So travelers had 6 people come to the website and they spent 7 times 15 number of minutes there. And there were 16 views total. This is a person that is showing a lot of high intent for that sales use case. This is a person that if our sales rep had access to this, they would say, oh, there's a lot of activity. Let me expedite that outreach. Let me talk to them sooner. So those are ways that you use that.
These are the accounts. So like, as you look at your strategy and you're doing outreach, you can see some of the top folks that are looking, they're like 6 user sessions, or 7 user sessions from Travelers, another 7 from Logix. And so as your team starts to reach out to people, you know that these are going to be pretty warm leads for you to go after.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And then from the number of users and sessions, there were a total of 812 views. So all of the number of views on a page, or how many times they were coming back to it. And then this is what I also love about this, because I use this for the retargeting use case. You see this button up here that says view companies. If I click this, it'll take me to another section of the Sales Intel portal where I can go through and then use all of our filters to then get that ICP. And that's how I break it down from a very broad, getting more specific to figure out who do I need to put in my campaigns, what companies that are visiting my website that are actually in my ICP, the ability to suppress existing customers from that list. So I'm only targeting net new, and that my ad spend is as targeted as possible.
So now the other interesting thing here, and you might think, oh, this looks a little overwhelming. 1,800 people from Travelers are human verified inside the database. I'm going to reach out to 1,800 people. That's a lot. So what you can do is narrow that down. We know that 1,800 people from Travelers have human verified data, information inside Sales Intel. So you can click on that and then start targeting the persona that you want to reach. And that's where it gets really interesting, because when you're targeting a smaller subset, that's the audience that could potentially buy. That's the audience that most likely visited your site. Again, there's no legal way to know who visited your site because that would just violate all kinds of privacy laws. But we know the type of persona that would be visiting. We know the companies that are visiting, and you put the two together, you have a pretty good bet that these are the ones that you need to reach out to.
Absolutely. We have one question, which is, can you clarify the sessions KPIs once more, and how does that differ from views? So views is essentially how many
Page views, right?
The page views, the number of pages viewed, I believe, holistically for the account, because it's tracking all of the individual IP users and taking all of the information and putting it under the account umbrella, which is what we're legally allowed to share. Sessions just means that one session count equals 15 minutes. So that's how much time is being spent on the site. So for example, oh man, I wish I was better at math in my head. So 7 times.
Well, like for example, if you had a session and let's say you went to a website and you clicked onto 3 different pages. So it would be one session and add to 3 different views. A lot of people go to a page and they bounce off. So that would just be one session. So that's the so views would be the collective number of times a page was viewed, any page was viewed, and the sessions is the number of times a user went to go visit.
Yeah, and yep. Because anytime there's a lot of sessions, so this would be like we were saying, how effective is your website. If you have a lot of page views and really low sessions, you're getting a lot of traffic, but either there's not a lot on there or people aren't staying to read. So then that's an additional indicator to how to improve your metrics and what's going on. One other thing I'm gonna jump on here because I absolutely love that it's in the screenshot is you see this option for request ROD. Now, anyone who's not necessarily familiar with Sales Intel or what we offer or what's in there, we have a wonderful service called Research on Demand, because everyone who visit your website, maybe it's a weird company that was just created like a couple of months ago and there's no information. And also we're constantly improving our database and everything that we have in it. So request ROD simply means that you can click this button and have a request to get the human verified information. This way you are always able to find who you need to target and go after. That's why we as a data provider and as just your partner in growth absolutely love, because we want to make sure that you're reaching your audience because it's so key to your success.
Yeah. And so like, think of it this way. I have this phrase that I use all the time, that if you're doing the work of your assistant, you are the assistant. If you're doing $10 an hour work, there's someone out there who could probably do that work for you a lot cheaper than you're doing it yourself. And so the ROD request button allows you to find the contacts. Our team will go out and human verify these contacts. And we've got an army of people that do this every single day. And that way you can find out who to reach out to by having someone else do it, so you can focus your time on the things that make you the most money. And usually that's not hunting and pecking for contact information. That's where we come in.
No, I absolutely love that, because you hit the nail on the head. I know there's a couple of case studies that we have right now that say we help them improve their prospecting by 80%. So they were able to spend less time up here at the top of the funnel and more time actually working deals. And that's what you have with that too, of saying, hey, is there someone else that can help you do it? If your team can spend more time actually working and talking to people than just finding the people, how much more impactful is that to yourself as an org?
Yeah. So Sales Intel effectively becomes your assistant for a teeny tiny fraction of the cost that a person would cost. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've laid it on pretty thick. We've got a lot of great use cases in here, but I know we're getting to our time. So if you guys have any additional questions, now is the time. Please throw those into the chat, throw those into the Q&A. And for anyone that has to jump for their next meeting, it is being recorded, so you're not going to miss out on anything.
Yeah. And for those of you who liked what you saw, let's set up a time where we can chat and give you a deeper dive to intent information that's specific to your business too. So we can show you how to find people who are looking for the types of products and services you're selling, and then map that into specific contacts that you'll want to reach out to. It provides a very high intent. So set up a demo, just go visit salesintel.io and click the free trial button to get started.
Yeah, or I mean, they're going to have the recap email tomorrow too, but why wait? So
Yeah.
either way,
yeah,
it'll be
all
in
depends
there.
on how fast you want to hit your quota.
Very true.
Right.
Very true.
Mm.
No.
All right. Well, thank you very much for everybody. Hope you found the information useful, and we'll look forward to seeing you on a future webinar.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.